in principle.
Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Speaker. The opposition will support the PAB Planning, Building and Environment Legislation Amendment Bill 2016 No. 2. This bill is the latest in a series of omnibus bills in the planning, building and environment space and contains minor policy amendments to a number of regulations and legislation, including the Climate Change and Greenhouse Gas Reduction Act 2010, the Planning and Development Regulation 2008, the Utilities Technical Regulation Act 2014. The bill also proposes a number of technical and editorial amendments to legislation, including the Environment Protection Act 1997, the Nature Conservation Act 2014, the Nature Conservation Regulation 2015, the Planning and Development Act 2007, the Planning and Development Regulation 2008 and the Utilities Technical Regulation Act 2014. Many of the amendments in this bill are intended to be minor and to remove administrative complications, such as removing Section 10 of the Climate Change and Greenhouse Gas Reduction Act 2010, the reference to Section 10, because energy efficiency targets are now provided for in the Energy Efficiency Cost of Living Improvement Act 2012. There's also a change to the Planning and Development Regulation 2008 to ensure consultation is required for developments over 7,000 square metres for one or more than one building. Previously, these had only needed consultation if a single building over 5,000 square metres was proposed. But now, under this change, community consultation will be required prior to a development application being lodged. And Madam Assistant Speaker, I'd foreshadow at this point that on Thursday I'll be moving a motion referring the question about minor and technical amendments to the Administration and Planning Committee. In this instance, we're not opposed to this particular change, but it brought to our mind the instances where changes do come through, the PAB, LABs, the SLABs, which are intended to be minor and non-controversial, but in some cases maybe have a little more meat on their bones. So we're seeking some guidance from the Admin and Procedures Committee as to what principles may be applied to determine which ones are minor and non-controversial. But that will be coming up on Thursday. And as I said, we're not opposed to this change at all. Under the Utilities Technical Regulation Act, the changes proposed for the definition of small or medium-scale generation and allows for it to be changed in regulation. So as a result of this amendment, up to 200 kilowatts will not be required to obtain an operating certificate. So that's another good change. It removes some red tape. A technical amendment to the definition of reserves under the Nature Conservation Regulation 2015 as a result of Territory Plan Variation 351, the West Belconnen Urban Development, which commenced on the 22nd of July 2016, from Special Purpose Reserve to Nature Reserve, as the majority of the Woodstock and Woodstock West Special Purpose Reserve has become a Nature Reserve. Previously, most was described as a Special Purpose Reserve. Now only a small strip of land will be retained as a Special Purpose Reserve. There's a technical amendment to the Planning and Development Act 2007 to make it clear that if an application to ACAD is withdrawn, dismissed or struck out, the DA can proceed. Currently, the Planning and Development Act is silent on this matter. This is another worthwhile amendment. A technical amendment to the Utilities Technical Regulation Act 2014 allows regulated utilities to provide notification of reportable incidents, such as a dangerous incident, serious damage to a property or the environment, or the death of a person can now be notified by email or a smart form. Previously, this was only by telephone within 24 hours after the regulated utility became aware of the incident. In conclusion, Madam Assistant Speaker, the opposition is pleased to support this amendment bill, which will make sensible changes to the planning, building and environment legislation, especially in dealing with increased community consultation, which is something as elected members that we're all aware of the importance of. This morning we've also heard through a petition presented by my colleague Ms Lakuta about the concerns of the community in Curtin, about consultation, about planning changes there. So thank you to the Minister for bringing these worthwhile changes through, and thank you to the Minister's Office for their assistance with providing briefing and information. We're pleased to support this change today.